Oh, thank God, actually, that we can edit these shows. Welcome to another episode of Combat Radio. Evan Uncanny, the legendary Hunt Keeper, is with me, and we were just talking about the fact that in the case, which is so often the case, that we're unprepared, uh, we have editorial skills. We can cut 90% of a show down to 10% and make it somewhat semi average to interesting at best. How are you, buddy?
Good. Yeah, you're
Uh,
right. We can cut this shit out, right? If I say something crazy. Yeah.
Of course, of course. Well, actually, your contributions are usually pretty insightful and intelligent. Mine will derail it into the road of stupid. But
No, come on. Don't do that.
we were talking, such is the case with us. We talked briefly last night, and I mean briefly, meaning only
No.
2 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
uh,
That we should have recorded. It should have been the show, but
oh,
that shit just happens.
that always happens with me. Like when I'm caught off guard and I'm speaking like in a loose format like that, we get everything out that we should try to get out. It
Me
happens with
too.
Harrison Ellenshaw. It happened all the time with Peter Jason, who we were talking about. And
Yeah.
it's impolite to record people, but I almost wish I had like a set of Nixon tapes where I caught all the candid, because it was hilarious. It
Yeah.
was so funny. It
Well,
was
and
so
like
funny.
seamlessly from topic to topic too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the main thing and the highlight of the conversation for me was you had photos from the Orpheum Theater when you saw John Carpenter perform one of his concerts.
Yeah.
Peter Jason in what looked like this, Amadeus style VIP balcony, shaking everyone's hands with like
Yeah.
a glass of wine, which was Peter at his finest. That was the guy all the time. Captain Hospitality, Captain Upbeat, just an all-time generous human being. And you sent me those photos that you had taken because he did a Christmas Carol for a Cure with us since its beginning. You started last year when what we were keeping to ourselves, he was in a hospital bed in Cedar Sinai in his final stages of his battle with cancer.
Right.
And nothing about this is easy. We're about what I would say 2 weeks removed from getting the news that just fucking rocked all of us. But um, what was fun about the conversation last night is we had a chance to have all these laughs, remembering who he was and what he had given everyone as like an actor, you know.
Frank? There's a meeting tonight. Be at this address at 11 o'clock. Watch out no one follows you. The world needs a wake-up call. We're gonna phone it in.
And I swear, like with my buddy Sonny Landham, Peter never acted a day in his life. That was basically
Yeah,
Peter
that's just
Jason
him.
at home.
Yeah.
You know, I was watching They Live before we got together here, and I realized, yeah, that's kind of him, Peter Jason, and They Live, Prince of Darkness. Making like musical sounds, walking through things, and actually, you asked me what the show was about, and I said, when I know, you'll know, and that's right out of Prince of Darkness with Peter Jason. Now that I think about it,
Oh,
it's
nice.
even subliminal. It wasn't even on purpose. But anyway, so Evan, let's talk. Let's start with you. By the way, if you don't know this guy and haven't followed this guy on Instagram, what is wrong with you? He's got all the fun haunt coverage, but you're a Peter Jason fan, a John Carpenter fan, John Carpenter slash Peter Jason fan, I would say.
Yeah. All that. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
all appropriate. So,
I just saw They Live.
All right, suppose we settle down. That's far enough. Where'd you get those glasses?
Tooth Fairy.
I'll bet.
You got him. Make yourself shaving this morning.
You look as shitty to us as we do to you.
Impossible.
It would be easier if we don't have to splatter your brains. Just take it easy. And you stumbled onto something here. Maybe we can all benefit from this slight misunderstanding. Now let's go someplace quiet so we can talk this over.
So you bastards die just like we do.
I can't believe that's not a TV series in today's day and age.
Oh, yeah. I've thought about like what they could do as a sequel or a remake or something, but I think one of the things it's even more relevant now than ever,
Yeah,
you know?
for
But
sure.
how would they work it into smartphones? I mean, there's still they kind of upgraded from the glasses in the movie to contact lenses, so that was one thing. So I don't know, and also sometimes you just like leave one film and you don't do any sequels or anything like that. It kind of.
Well,
What do you think? What do you think would be a good sequel to They Live?
I don't know. Maybe I'm not a sequel-driven thinker anyway, but I
Yeah,
do
kind
like
of
that.
same.
I mean, I have to say, The Thing is really what proved John Carpenter to be a genius to me, anyway, even when I was young. But They Live, these are very smart movies. Like these are, I mean, there's so much gaslighting going on today to suit people's evil agendas that They Live really sort of, anyone who saw They Live, I think, is more able to spot gaslighting. Does that make
Yeah,
sense? I feel like if you
bullshit
saw it as a
detecting.
kid,
Yeah, yeah,
you now kind of know when you're being handed them like consume,
right.
like close out, consume, just I don't know, but I love the movie. I don't know what I would do with it. I love it kind of how it is. I mean, I've seen people complain that it's too slow, but to be honest with you, it unfolds at a natural pace for me.
Yeah.
I don't know how quick. It's not a Bruckheimer film, so I don't know how quick you want
No,
it to roll
not a
out.
bunch of fast cuts and shit like that.
Yeah.
Action packed.
And you can feel it was a limited budget. I'm sure Carpenter wanted to go much bigger with the action sequences than to have him just shoot up a bank. I'm sure in the script that character goes on a tirade down Wilshire.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he's like
That's
the
some
Texas
iconic shit though
sniper.
when he walks into that bank and fucking says, "I'm here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of
Yeah.
bubblegum."
And I know Piper told me that because I worked with him too, that they wanted to build their fight scene was inspired by The Quiet Man, which is probably the greatest fight scene in cinema history to Carpenter.
Oh, I've never seen that.
Yeah, and they wanted to kind of model their fight scene after it, which is a smart play because their budget's probably limited, but you have an expert in Piper who can probably coordinate it. They shot it over 2 days, so they probably said, "Look, if we extend the fight scene, we extend our action tempo. We've got the guy. That's an inexpensive way to do it." So they let him have at it. But he always described Keith David, who's done A Christmas Carol, not to be confused with David Keith. I can't believe these two guys. I can't believe one of these guys hasn't dropped a middle initial in their title yet. But um,
No.
Keith David, brilliant actor that he is, Platoon, The Thing, got the part in The Thing after Mosley turned it down because he got Magnum PI. But Roddy Piper described David as a dancer in a complimentary way, like meaning he was very graceful and not a fighter, and he had stage combat experience. He wasn't going to hurt the other actor, and Roddy was used to, I'm gonna give this guy a concussion, even though
Yeah,
we're,
kind of
you
being a little less gentle. Yeah.
yeah. So Piper finally had to like just say, "But look, man, just wail into me, just sell it, like go ahead and punch it." And that, my friends, is what you get when you go to the Castaways for a Sunday brunch with Roddy Piper. You get all the insights. But he also said something very interesting about Carpenter during the filming. He said, Carpenter said, "You can ask me any questions you want until the cameras roll. On the day the cameras roll, you either have to have it all worked out or work it out on your own. Because by then I'm thinking about how to make the schedule and how fast we're going to rifle through this." So up until day one, setup one, You can have all the conversations you want. Once we go, then we go hard. But I actually love. We weren't really supposed to talk They Live. We talked a little bit about it last night in our.
There's always, there's never a bad time to talk about They Live. It's always appropriate. It's always room for that. Same with The Thing.
Yeah.
Any John Carpenter film, you know?
Yeah, and he employed Peter so much.
Yeah.
And I will say you've met John.
Yeah, like a couple times, I think. I'm trying to, yeah.
You've gone to the musical shows and you've seen him at signings and you've supported his work. We all have. We've all invested in his work to some degree. And I will say that with Peter spent Christmases with John Carpenter, just Peter's wife, Eileen, and John and Sandy King. But man, Carpenter loved him. Sandy loved him. They go back all the way to the Long Riders when Sandy King was the script supervisor for Walter Hill on the Long Riders, which is a
Right.
incredible film. And a cast that has remained tight. What is it? 40 years later? Those guys were all best friends up until
Is that like an early 80s movie? What year did that come out?
79,
Oh,
I think
okay.
that came out.
You got it wrong, mister. We didn't do nothing.
Yes, you did. Some of our friends saw you on the North Road that night.
Now, please, mister, it wasn't really a bomb. It was just supposed to smoke everybody out.
My little brother was 15 years old. Now you think about that. On your way to hell.
Chris, I mean, a lot of those guys have done A Christmas Carol. Nick Guest from Christmas Vacation. Christopher Guest's brother has done A Christmas Carol, and Keith Carradine's done it. The only Academy Award winner. As if that means fucking anything, but he's the only Academy Award winner. It's done. It means something to somebody somewhere in the halls of
Yeah,
Beverly.
it is when you're a fan of the movie, but most of the time you're like, what the fuck? What one? Oh, man, shit.
Yeah, yeah. But,
They gave it to who?
Yeah, I didn't even watch it this year. Did you see it?
No, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Can I recommend something I saw last night after I talked with you? My daughter put on a movie that was brilliant. Flow.
Oh.
It's an animated feature about a cat, but you put it on and man, it's one of those movies where you stick with it.
I'm aware of it. Like, I've seen a trailer for it. I think I've
Yeah.
seen ads on Instagram or something like that. But I'm like, I feel like it was a video game or something, or there was a game like that. And maybe I'm
Possibly.
just
It could easily
tripped out on
become. It could easily become one. I mean, what was cool about it was this guy. I mean, initially, what got my attention is like, this guy, I guess, did it on his own, without
wow.
on Blender on his basically. And
That's
so,
cool.
of course, already, what's that?
I said, that's cool.
Yeah, man. So already I'm rooting for the guy, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
dude. But it was a compelling story, and it's one where you're rooting for all the characters involved, and it was simplistic in its ideas, but executed in an interesting way. And I would recommend that. I haven't seen anything else. I saw Conclave. I thought that was well done. I didn't love the ending, but I thought it was well done.
I saw The Substance pretty recently after people were
And
like raving about it. I thought it was okay. I don't know.
yeah, yeah,
It's strange. Like people who love horror films, they get kind of too excited about every horror film that comes out. It's like they can't all be the greatest movie ever every time they
yeah.
come out just because I saw The Monkey and really did not like that movie. I like
Okay.
had to fight my way I mean, I was
Ouch.
exhausted. I was like falling asleep in the theater.
So
but
with
I'm
you,
like,
it became Monkey Man, and you were like,
I was like, I got to get out of here, man. I was like,
yeah.
did you ever see Longlegs?
No, no.
So
How was
people
it?
were really excited about Longlegs. The only thing that I could say was like fun about it was Nicolas Cage's fucking bonkers performance as like the killer in that movie. Which
Oh,
I mean, that was fun.
Nicolas Cage is bonkers, but in the movie. I mean, I thought you were just kind of
Extra
leaving it
bonkers.
there.
Yeah, he plays
Yeah.
this really weird, just bizarre person in this fucking movie. And then yeah, so the same director, Osgood Perkins, directed The Monkey, which is like adapted from a Stephen King short story.
Right.
But
They've made it
yeah,
before, I think.
I thought they did too, but I think I'm
Yeah.
confusing it with Monkey Shines or something.
Well, isn't that what it was? That's George
No.
Romero, right? I don't know.
I had that
Whatever.
same thing, but no, they're different. Yeah, but like the cover has that toy monkey on it,
Okay.
so it's easy to kind of mentally
See,
think
all
they're
the
same
film
thing.
all the film bros with too much time on their hands are going to like educate us in the comments about a casual
fine.
conversation we
I know.
happen to have
That's
and
fine.
why we don't know every aspect of every single fucking thing. But in like conversational situations like this, it's fun just to kind of see what's up. And I haven't seen The Monkey.
Don't
Someone mentioned it at breakfast the other.
don't put yourself through that.
I mean, to me, it's a matter of taste. So if you love these movies, fantastic. I'm glad they're there for you. But so many of them to me feel telegraphed. Like you can kind of sense, where the jump scare is coming. You can kind of sense
Right.
where it's going. You now being sort of in a semi-dystopian existence, we know that there's a good chance it ends badly, and that's the way you're gonna have to take it.
Yeah.
But I'm having lunch today with a guy, Harry Manfredi,
Oh,
who's the composer on the Friday the 13th movies, and
yeah.
he's kind of.
I know that name, and then he did the music. Yeah, cool.
I'll get you. I'll have him
Cool.
sign one of your vinyls. But
Yeah, I have them. I have like,
Yeah.
Probably whatever Waxworks has put out for vinyl. I have all of them.
So yeah, get him ready. We'll have him sign it. But he's kind of a throwback to an era where these things weren't so. They became formulated during his
his
employment run, but they weren't so much. And that's maybe why I find Carpenter so interesting, because he's so out of the box. Like when The Thing hit, for those of us who can remember, I mean, I was very young, like maybe the first grade or something like that. And somebody in the second grade had seen it. And we had just seen the commercial with like the Mayday and the distress call and
yeah.
This is U.S. Station 31. You read me? Found something in the ice. We need some help down here. Can anybody hear me? We found something. We found something. We found something.
Men have just discovered something. For 100,000 years, it was buried in the snow and ice. Now it has found a place to live. Inside. Where no one can see it, or hear it, or feel it.
I know I'm human. Some of you are still human. This thing doesn't want to show itself. It wants to hide inside an imitation. It'll fight if it has to, but it's vulnerable out in the open. If it takes us over, then it has no more enemies. Nobody left to kill it. And then it's won.
You guys gonna listen to Gary? He can beat one of those things!
dude, you got to tell us all about the movie. And I remember him telling us, and I asked, I'm like, so who lives? Because I thought I'd never see it.
Yeah.
And he goes, no one. The two guys freeze to death in the end. And like hearing that from a second grader on the playground is like, we were like, what kind of movie is this? We were used to the Death Star gets blown up, bro.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, that's so, well, it's so fucked up to even conceive of an idea like that as a kid, but it's also exciting because it's like you've never heard of anything like that where they go that dark with the ending of fuck, everyone dies. Wow.
Yeah. Before it wasn't used in every third or fourth movie.
It happens too much now.
Yeah. The trapped device was very intriguing. Alien, the Thing. Now it's a go-to for many filmmakers. In fact, I think many filmmakers rely on it too much as like 30% of what they got going within the context of their script. But when I was based at the Warner lot, after Warner Brothers, I moved to the Warner Hollywood lot, which is now I think Showtime. The Showtime building is right where my office was, but they put me next to Frank Darabont, who was brilliant.
Yeah, he's great.
Very friendly, very upbeat. Kind of ironic that we now have Frank Darabont's favorite prison guard did A Christmas Carol with this Clancy Brown.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and Mark Ralston, Frank Darabont's favorite sister, did some charity work with us too, from Aliens and Lethal Weapon 2.
Right? Yeah, right.
We were talking about him last night too.
Yeah,
he worked his way. Everyone, when you start talking to Evan, man, it's like a Wikipedia of fun. Everything will come up.
We kind of tap into each other though, so we go like just down the line. Hey, what about this? What about that? It's like we kind of know, we both know about all this stuff, so we just kind of run along with each other. It's cool.
Right. And you're an underappreciated writer. I'll throw that out there too while we're talking. But
appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. People should look between the cracks for the talent in this town. But I was next to Frank Darabont. I remember one day, one of his executives said so-and-so in his office, the guy who answered the phone, had just submitted a script that apparently had gotten the green light for a Thing prequel. Now that version I've since heard was not made, but I remember when that happened and I was like, damn, this dude got it. Not like I'm stoked for him too at the same time, but I'm a prequel guy. I always think you should advance the story, not go back to an ending people know. I don't think you should I don't think we needed to know
because
how
you're
Darth
locked
Vader,
in. You're locked. You're on guide or whatever. You're on a track basically to the movie everybody knows, and you especially can't avoid comparisons to like the hit movie.
Right.
It's just kind of a tough road to go. Except for Temple of Doom, it works with that, but that's about it. Yeah.
I mean, legend is a very powerful tool in filmmaking for me, and it's like the legend of what Darth Vader did to become Darth Vader was better than seeing it.
Oh yeah.
And for the Thing, it's the same thing. I don't need to see the prequel. I kind of like the idea of a rescue team showing up and finding, another. I'd rather go that direction forward.
Did you ever see it? Did you ever see the prequel?
So I did, only because David Foster, who produced both, came through our studio. He was very gracious with us. He came through a few times, and
cool.
I used to deliver mail to David Foster's office at Warner Brothers when I started out in the courier department. So I knew him. I knew him as a mail deliverer. And you can hear me in the interview saying I used to deliver mail to his office. And he's like, God damn it, I'm trying to forget about that. But so he came through and he did what producers do, which is bait you into seeing it by telling you it's going to be good. And it wasn't. But that's his job, is also... Your job in this town, kids, is not just to make the movie. Your job is to sell the movie. You got to sell the movie,
yeah.
So hate it all you want. That is a logistical aspect of your job. So he came through and sold us on it. So we saw it, and then we were like, why? I mean, you had...
What did you think of, like, give it like a grade, or give it a number from 1 to 10? What would you give it?
A 1.5, probably.
Damn, so you like hated it.
So is that?
I just thought it was okay. Like there were kind of some parts in it that I was like, oh, cool, but like, I don't know. Yeah, it's like it's a total unnecessary film to have, really.
Look, I wouldn't say I hated it, and there are people out there that love it, and I'm
1.5 is hatred, my friend.
Is it? Because doesn't the scale go below 0 in the new math?
Yeah.
But my thinking
I was going to say 7.
I mean, here's the thing. If you have an aspect of the movie that you rely heavily on that takes me right out of the movie, and their effects, their CGI did, and you hammer
that's
that
true.
on me. That
Yeah,
every
the guy's
time I
face,
see
like,
that,
opening up on the helicopter.
the rating goes down. You know, if you
Yeah.
use it once and you slip it through, then I can probably do it. But as you keep pounding me with it, your rating sinks. It's like a kid making a making a book report in front of the class and he hasn't read the book and he keeps kind of shitting on himself as he goes. So it's kind of, for me, it's like, buddy, you're about to end up in detention. Here's the thing I did like about it. I love the setting. I love the ambition of it, and I thought the casting was good. But
yeah.
But what was good about the original to me was sort of that slow burning. I mean, it's not all that slow, but there is a gradual intrigue that builds, and the film itself could be edited in a way where it's not even about the alien if you chose to do that. But it's like one of those things where the suspicion builds in almost like Hitchcockian fashion, like it's not who is it, which is a key part of it, but it's also who's it gonna be. And I mean, I have my antagonistic moments in the original too. Like for one, I loved Kurt Russell. He was my favorite actor as a kid. Escape from New York. I loved all those movies.
Oh yeah, I love him too. He's great.
I love his brother-in-law, Jack Philbrick, who's an established UPM and gave me my first experience on a film set when he was the UPM on picket fences.
Oh,
I
cool.
love everything about Kurt and his family. Met his son in a meeting at the firm.
Cool. Nice.
There's nothing, he is everything you hope he would be. But I remember like watching The Thing and McCready, a character I love, like they just get through the blood tests and he goes and finds Childs like guarding the door. And he's like, we're about to go out and give Blair the test. If he comes back and we're not with him, burn him.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to do it like Steven Seagal, but
you kind of slipped into it. It happened gradually.
Yeah, I'll get to my Seagal stories later. But
that's an alternate version of The Thing. Yeah, from another universe where Steven Seagal is McCready.
I should tell you when Steven Seagal gave me 24 hours to come up with a horror scripts moment. Save that one for another day. But I remember like he's doing that, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, man? We just got the blood test. We know who's who. No one is splitting up.
Right.
Like this is the squad.
Yeah, eyes on everyone at every moment,
Yeah. Like you're not even going into a latrine unless that door stays open. Like no one is doing, and then there's a couple of other moments like that. You don't have a movie if these moments don't happen, and I understand that. But it's also as a fan, you're just like, why? Like there's Steve Surgic and I, who directed The Witcher. We talk about this movie religiously. We both love it, and he always has this moment, like we were talking about the moment Ash opens the airlock in Alien and how you don't have a movie if he doesn't punch that button. But we were like, What the fuck are you doing? What's the protocol on the ship? And there's that moment in The Thing too where he's like, they're at the burned out Norwegian camp and smoke, which I understand was the set for the US based camp. They just wrecked it. But
yeah, it was after they literally blew it up. I love that all those explosions are real. That's
for sure.
Kind of that one where that's the end of the movie where it blows up. But there's a moment. Have you ever watched the movies? Do you ever watch anytime you can watch a Carpenter film where it's Kurt Russell and John Carpenter doing the commentary together? It's like the best. Have you ever checked any of those out?
Yes. I remember The Thing and Big Trouble, both.
Yeah,
gold.
I feel like there's one for Escape from LA. I know there's one from Escape from New York that's like they're just laughing the whole time and fucking around. It's pretty cool. But is it Windows? No. There's a guy who's like Palmer. Okay, so when Palmer runs out into the snow and McCready like throws the dynamite, like that explosion actually knocks Kurt Russell back in the shot, and he was like talking about it, on the commentary. So every time I watch the movie, I go, "Oh shit, man!"
And there's a moment like that in Big Trouble too, in that commentary where they talk about the ballistics going a little off the gauge in a way that,
I think of vampires when the hotel blows up behind James Woods and he like flinches.
Yeah, he does. It's but I love that Carpenter goes real with it, and now there's probably rules that have changed since they've made The Thing and Big Trouble where
you can't have fun anymore. Shit's
is that
out
what
the
it
window.
is? I could feel like the union saying, "I'm sorry, you guys can't have fun. I know you want to do a napalm strike on the street of L.A. Here and like down Wilshire, but But in The Thing, there's that moment where they're in the Norwegian camp and they see this incredible Botine creation.
that face that's blending into another. It's
completely haunting, right?
Carpenter in the commentary is like, that's a vision of hell. Like he just it's true though. It's like, oh my God, that's fucking horrifying. You just look at it and you go, oh fuck.
Yeah, he sees that, right? And it's surrounded by like kerosene cans.
Yeah, and
he's
they
like
tried to burn it up in a hurry, right? Or something like that.
And he goes to be, they're looking at it through the smoke, and McCready goes, "Get a shovel, Doc." And I'd be like, well, hold the fuck up, buddy.
Let's just leave this here.
Hold on. This ain't getting on the chopper with us. Do you see this? Were you not, did you not witness the fucking debacle in our dog pen last night?
Like it's after that shit, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why would you bring that with you?
Was it? Yeah. Was it? No, wait. Maybe it was before. I mean, I should know because I've seen the movie 100 times.
We both should know, and I love that we both definitively do not know.
You know what's great about it is it means we're gonna have to see it again.
You're gonna have to watch it again and again and again till we get it right.
Yeah. No, because I do think they do bring it back, and they have that "we found this" moment, but it does open us up to that conversation of how brilliant some of the professionals were on this, not just Dean Cundey, but Albert Whitlock, who did a lot of that matte work. It's pretty brilliant. I mean, the whole movie, but that's such a smart movie. Yeah, it's like, if you want to ask me what's missing from, say, 90% of the movies today is the intellectual level of it. You know, like, I mean, I knew when I saw Alien at 9 years old that there is not space travel like this, and there isn't spaceships like this. But fuck, I was in that movie horrified me when I was 9.
Well, it brings you into that world. You know, it's like just a really strong creative vision. I don't know. It all kind of has to start with like the story and characters and all that. I don't think there's like as much of a focus on that anymore.
No, I mean, now it's pretty rudimentary, I think, in terms of character. I mean, there's some outstanding circumstances, of course. I mean, one of the interesting movies that Carpenter did, and Sandy King produced it, was Prince of Darkness. And I think we've both been to the church, which is in Little Tokyo.
I haven't gotten to check that out yet. I wanted to, but yeah.
Dude, that's your first trip to LA stop, because there's so many great restaurants around, and that's what gets me out when there's a restaurant next door.
Nice. Okay.
But it's actually a lot smaller than when you see it on Surprise. You know, it's a lot.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the size of like a Kenny's shoes almost. It's like, it's really kind of tiny. It's nice. It's a beautiful building. But he cast so many of his veteran personalities in it. And I know from Peter Jason talking about the film, the story I got from Peter is on the Long Riders. Someone had made a play at Sandy King, and she had thrown a block and it didn't get anywhere. And that guy made an effort to get her terminated from the project. Now, this is casual conversation from Peter Jason's experiences, and she did not deserve it. She certainly can take care of herself, as we know. Look at her effectiveness as a working professional. But
Storm King, man. Hell yeah.
In the circumstances that surround this, the Peter Jason and the Carradines went into Walter Hill and said, nah, she's not getting fired. And to Sandy King's credit, you know, whether she needed the help or not, and I would say not, gauging what her skill set is, but she always remembered the gesture. And she went to Peter Jason for Prince of Darkness and basically said, look, it's a we don't really have the budget we want, but it'll be fun. You'll make a movie. John's directing. And that looped him in for what would be a run with like everything from Escape from LA to Village of the Damned to, you know, They Live, which is kind of his hallmark appearance in the Carpenter, you know, film resume, if you ask me. And I thought that actually says a lot about her as a producer, to remember who her friends are and to take care of them. But it's a movie with such an ensemble cast. I mean, Dennis Dunn, you have, you know, one of the Simon brothers, the one who was shot, Parker. And got
Alice Cooper in there.
You do have Alice Cooper in there. And I was just thinking about all the colorful personalities, including Hoss's son, right?
A shared vision of something that is yet to occur.
Caused by that thing downstairs?
Perhaps not.
Tachyon is a subatomic particle that travels faster than light.
Supposing it isn't a dream. Supposing it's a message.
What if these dreams, premonitions, omens, what if they're really visual messages sent by other human beings? Photographs, video signals. From where?
The future. Anything traveling faster than the speed of light would appear to be going backward in time.
A future scientist calculates the exact spot that the Earth occupied in space in the past, given trajectory and speed. He then beams a tachyon signal at that spot, transmitting video information backwards through time.
For us to receive as electrical impulses, neural stimulus.
For what purpose?
Could be a warning to show us what's going to happen. A sort of remote camera view of the future so that we can change it.
But
it's been a minute since I've seen that movie, and I've been thinking anyway I need to revisit it. So yeah.
I mean, it is what it is, I guess is the way to put it. But Peter said,
I'm like, I need to revisit it. You're like, yeah. Do you
no,
need
I mean,
to?
I think you should. I think you should. I never tell anyone to not see a movie. It's very
I
rare.
will. And I did with the monkey earlier. Don't do that to yourself. What else? Yeah, maybe not the substance either. The substance is really gross.
Yeah,
anyway.
And I actually don't need that in my life right now.
Yeah, no, like they got Dennis Quaid's in that movie, and they have like this close up of his mouth while he's eating, and you get all the sound, and I'm just like, oh man, I can't. Yeah,
now,
it's shit like that.
Here's my question: like, why do you do it? Like, is that what you got? Is that your angle on the film? Like,
I don't know. There's a lot of moments like that in the movie. It's just like, I don't know.
Like for me, the horror ride in so many of these earlier horror films, Carpenter to be, part of this conversation. It's not the stabbing of the victim. It's the atmosphere leading to the victim's demise. That is like the kind of the roller coaster ride for me.
The setup,
it's like the step. I mean, I guess
you just kind of like unplug at that moment and go, all right.
Yeah. I mean, but like Halloween, it's the feeling of Halloween and the fact that there's this like impending sense of terror as the sun goes down. That's what makes the movie a must watch. Unique
shit. That opening is like,
yeah,
that sets it all. And then the fucking mental institution escape right after that. It's like, you're like, fuck, what's going to happen next? It's kind of like, it just keep the suspense and keep you on the edge of your seat, just wondering what is this guy doing and where is he going next and who's he coming after next?
It's the moment of Nick Castle breaking the window with the wrench in his hand.
Yeah.
Which I thought about that. Like, I guess that because, I mean, that should be, it's next to an actress's head. So it's got to be a form of breakaway glass, right? It's not like he's busting a real window because
that always looks super weird to me. And I'm like, they did some kind of low budget way to cope with that, but make it look good enough. I don't know what they did. I'm sure you could find out somewhere,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's so, I mean,
but yeah, same. I'm always like, it should be some kind of, should it break in or something? It doesn't. It just kind of breaks. It looks like it has kind of plastic over it or something,
Did I ever tell you I was at Camarillo Mental Institution? My uncle was a doctor there.
Okay.
And we were there when there was a power outage.
Is that the place where they shot that?
No, but they shot that, I think, in Lake Los Angeles, someplace.
Okay.
And I love that about Carpenter too. He seemed to always use LA when he could.
Yeah. The Dark Paradise, right?
Yeah. But that was a nerve-wracking. I was young also. I mean, now it's Camarillo State it's a university. It's Channel Islands University, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember there was a power outage and I'm like thinking like, this is how it happens. Halloween, he's going to get out. And he'd always tell me that there's 5 or 6 Napoleons. We have about 10 Jesus Christs here, that the people that think they're Jesus. And, it's really interesting. He couldn't talk about specific cases, but he would give me kind of a once over. And it reminded me just of Halloween. As soon as the power went out, he says it goes out occasionally.
Oh, God. That's when that's when the breakouts happen, right?
Right out of a horror movie, bro.
It is,
but Halloween. You've met all those. I worked with Chuck Cyphers, but you've met everyone else, right, on that cast. You get
Not
around.
everybody. Yeah, I've met like Nick Castle. We were talking about Nancy Loomis and Charles
Mhm.
Cyphers and John Carpenter like
Yeah.
a couple times, and I've seen him do like play music a couple times. That one
Yeah.
time at the Orpheum and the other time at the Palladium. So
Yeah. And you're a big fan of the Coupe de Villes. I think
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
you're eagerly awaiting a Coupe de Villes reunion.
Yeah, clamoring for it. Yeah.
Yes, please. Come on, Nick Castle, Tommy Lee Wallace. Wasn't one of the members? Isn't one of the members pass? Didn't he pass away?
No, they're still all three of them are still around. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And Tommy Lee Wallace, I think, feels good about people originally hating Halloween 3 and then coming around and loving it as like some kind of weird cult classic.
I think we all know what the problem is with the film, and it's in the title. Like, I think that movie would have been much more successful if it wasn't called Halloween 3. And there's.
You think it should have just been called Season of the Witch or something like that?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Well, I guess you know this already, I'm sure, but they were trying to take it into an anthology series, and that was the first, and then people couldn't handle that shit. They're like just wanted Michael Myers back, and so that was 4, and I don't know, 4 is okay. I feel like they kind of get worse as they go along, though.
So in today's day and age, they would have been able to pull that off. They could have done the Halloween anthology series and spin off the Michael Myers into like the Shape series,
right?
And
Or
you'd have
the Shape multiverse or universe or whatever.
But distributors just couldn't get their head around that. Neither could production people in those days. They just, it's so funny how the thinking was so one dimensional back when you know, and in many ways still is. I think you have to wait for someone to reinvent the wheel or reinvent the way things are going to happen to sort of open up people's thinking, of course. But it's one of those things you look back. But you're a big Assault on Precinct 13 guy.
Definitely, yeah.
Give me a gun! They're coming down the hall! I can't hold it! Shit!
In fact, weren't you like the de facto president of the Austin Stoker fan club?
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
something like that. Yeah, sure.
So much that when you ran into him at a Carpenter event,
you want me? Yeah, we talked about.
I don't know if you should. It's up to you.
I'm going to. I'm gonna say it. So like, I was way into the movie. I had watched it a bunch of times, and it was a Golden Apple signing, I think in like, it may have been before 2016. I can't remember.
By the way, Golden Apple has my comic, No Quarter Kill All Masters. Just throwing it out there. Now, get to your story.
Buy it now and read it now. As many times as possible. Yes.
In fact, next time you go to an event there, can I sell you some money to pick it up so they can actually see some sales on their doc?
Of course, yeah. Continue. Yeah, we'll get that going. Yeah, for sure.
Shameless.
Shameless promotion. But, so I was there for a John Carpenter signing, and I think Austin Stoker was like 80 years old or something at that point, but he like walked past me and oh shit. And I tapped him on the shoulder to say what's up, whatever. And he just kept on walking. So I was like, oh man, that sucks. And it was like the only opportunity I had to ever meet him or anything like that. And he's passed away now. So the last movie he did, whenever Rob Zombie's 3 from Hell came out, I think it was 2018, 2019. It may have been 2019.
Yeah.
So he passed away, I think, around then. I don't know. I'm not sure, but he didn't feel the tap, and I've got to live with that. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. I'm gonna opt for that version of events too. That he just didn't feel it. Not that he was rude. Let's think better of Austin.
He was so focused on going in to say hi to John Carpenter that he's just like,
well. Part of what we were discussing last night is, did he have to go to a John Carpenter event to say hi to John Carpenter? We were trying to figure that one out as well.
Yeah,
Or
I don't
was he
know.
like, it might have been one of those things where he got wind of it. And, because right next door is that coffee shop, so
Right. Yeah.
he might have just been out nearby and heard he's doing a signing and goes, I'm going to go by and say hello. That happens too.
Yeah. Yeah. Pop by and say hello. They took a
Um,
picture together afterward. It seemed cool. So yeah.
yeah, I'm sure they have a lot of, or had a lot of respect for each other. Rest in
Yeah.
peace, Dawson. Also, the watch commander in Assault on Precinct 13 is the guy who played Scar in The Searchers.
Oh.
Incredible. Back when Hollywood was still shameless in its casting and Native Americans got to be like the secondary and attack Braves and Chiefs, and they hired a white guy, a Caucasian actor to be your main.
You just
but,
go like this.
Yes, even though it is probably on everyone's list of one of the top Westerns ever made because of its, scope and depth. But anyway, yeah. So Assault on Precinct 13, was that the first Carpenter movie you saw?
Oh, wow. I think it's kind of funny what got me into John Carpenter.
Mm-hmm.
I know, like, a long ago, probably early 2000s, I was like a huge South Park fan. I kind of like not so much anymore, but I think it's still cool. I just don't watch it anymore. But for a while there, they would have these like obscure, references on the show.
Right.
And I know that they copied the fight from They Live, like, move for move in one of the episodes where the two kids are fighting each other.
Of course they did.
And I thought that was hilarious. And I was like, I had always heard about They Live, but I'd never seen it. I think that might have been the first. Like, I'd seen Halloween at one point. I think I had watched They Live, and I thought it was so fucking cool that I started watching other just branching out in the catalog. But The Thing, I remember being up late. I just like rented a DVD from the library or whatever, was watching it. And yeah, when Bennings he turns toward the camera and lifts his fucked up arms up, and does that horrible screech. I mean, I was locked in on that fucking movie.
Yeah.
I was just like at home, like, it's not like a big theatrical experience with the movie, like completely delivered on some tiny ass TV with the DVD rented from the
completely.
library.
I mean, that's how a lot of us had to see it, right? Because it was in and out of the theaters when we were kids.
It blew
so
my
quick.
fucking mind, and then I just went Escape from New York, Escape from LA, The Fog, just one after another, and I was like, fuck, this guy's catalog's incredible.
Yeah, Dan Truly said it best when he said, look, he's just an interesting filmmaker, and he genuinely is. It's a simplistic way to put it, but it's a great way to put it. Like, John Carpenter is interesting. Like, he takes things and makes them compelling. And like The Thing, it's so funny because I see people posting photos of that actor, and like all the comments are like, it isn't Bennings. It's just someone has to say it, right? Or a couple hundred people have to say it and think they're all so original, right? Me, one of them, probably. But
hey, it's fun. Fuck it, you got to have fun.
It is fun, but that scene is, that scene is so riveting. That
it's horrifying.
You forget that in their move to exterminate him, they literally like just tip a barrel of gas and lean over, and it could have blown up half the camp. Could have killed them all, but you don't care. I think even Carpenter cites that in the commentary. He's like, okay, that's not the way you should do this, kids, but whatever. We're set here, so this is where the thing. But I mean, just the idea of this movie where there's a guy like ripping off helicopter and tractor parts to build a spaceship in a
flying saucer under an ice. Yeah. It is like under the surface ice cave. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was really Wilford Brimley, according to former Warner Brothers senior VP Bill Daly, one of our regulars here. He worked with Wilford quite a bit. And Wilford was like an ornery dude, but
I'm sure. I mean, that totally checks out, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. He was like a former like stunt writer or something. I mean, he'd cut his teeth and he deserved his credit, but he was not always happy to be working with people. But in that movie, he delivers. He it's just and the little touch of the noose in the
in the background.
And he's like, wait a minute, man, wait a minute. Yeah. And I mean, it's so funny though, because he'd already told them what he had found out in terms of theories on the Thing's strategy, like what it was trying to do. But their thinking is still, let's lock them in the tool shed.
Right.
And, and from there, like when they start dividing up, like they're worried, but Fuchs is working in the lab alone. And I'm like, wait a minute. All right, look, let's get back to everyone fall back into platoon level. Like, you're not going over there by yourself. If you need to do some research, we're going to move the lab
do it
in
as
the
a
rec
group.
room.
Yeah.
Or we're moving the rec room into the lab. But no one is splitting off. And that's that great scene, too, with incredible sound design. I mean, one of the reasons I can actually fall asleep to the movie is the soundscape of the combination of the weather sound and the effects. And when that shadow bolts by, Fuchs, and he's like, who's there?
Oh, I always laugh at that part because I'm like, fuck, like,
yeah.
like, who to that terrifying thing happening, who goes, who's there? Like the way he does, it's like, come on, man.
Who's that?
Actually, like a simplistic setup, but so effective. Like we know when he kicks the bucket that's one of two.
Yeah.
But for some reason, the first time I saw it, like when he gets to the door, and we know the doorway's the gimmick, but we just, it's like, it still got me, and it's still fun to watch even now. And the sound they put in there, where it's like, and then of course he does the thing that would make me, hate him, which is we're not going outside after it. It's going outside to lead you into an ambush. We're not going out.
But he lit himself on fire or whatever, or whatever he did.
Did he?
We'll never know. Some weird. I'm a big Seinfeld fan, and like I'll see the Thing actors popping up in different places. Yeah. Like I know Doc is in Back to the Future 3 on the train talking to Mary Steenburgen. Is that her name?
Yeah.
But the whole thing with George the Ocean called. They're running out of shrimp or whatever. That's Fuchs. That's Fuchs. The same actor who plays Fuchs is on Seinfeld as that character. I'm like, oh, what fuck? That's crazy.
Yeah, and he's solid in it. I mean, every one of those actors are all really, really good. TK Carter, all those guys, brilliant. Yeah. I mean, the whole thing from top to bottom. And we were talking a little bit about how maybe the reviews of that movie after a year-long pre-production and the effort that went into it. Clearly stuck with Carpenter, we think.
Right.
And that's part of why, he can some days, he does what John Carpenter wants to do. I think he's, he was not treated too well by the critics. And then the same critics kind of turned around and like re-reviewed their work and like.
Didn't they do that on Halloween?
Yeah.
Also, it was like shown without music and then with music or something like that. And after they added the music in, at least the story I heard, that they like completely, turned right around, did like a 180 and praised how great it was.
So you can have a different outlook on a film as you get older. I've certainly had that experience. I've maybe not liked a movie, but appreciated things about it later.
Sure.
Same with your criticism. Too. Yeah, your criticism can also change. But I do think sometimes there's critics who criticize in tune with what they think their audience, such as it is, may think. Like they want to criticize into the popular opinion. And I think with Carpenter, he was doing so many unique things that the cool thing for a lot of these people to do would be like, this movie's outrageous. This guy is like an operatic conductor of gore, and he really wasn't. But
they called him the pornographer of violence for the Thing. And he quoted that directly. He didn't like
So,
that, I don't think.
so the same people who said that probably about a bunch of guys in an Arctic research station who are torching a bunch of essentially Muppets with flamethrowers and stuff. Carpenter is a pornographer of violence for doing that. But these same critics probably loved Peckinpah and his 30-minute fucking Battle of Bloody Porch, where probably 200 guys get blown apart. Like, that's okay.
Are we
That's
talking about
art.
the Wild Bunch with that one?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love that shit, though. It's so good.
So on one level, I mean, I would like to do a comparison. We should do a dedication to critics and what they loved versus what they hated and why. And again, everyone has the right to be their own critic, but I sometimes wonder about these people who are paid to do it. And they probably love the Wild Bunch and the Gatling gun cutting into hundreds of people at a time. But when it comes to The Thing, 12 guys against an alien, this is pornography. This is what?
I've seen that. People have different sensibility. I think that it's kind of fashionable to kick the shit out of things sometimes. You can be kind of mean-spirited about things like that when you don't need to be. And people do that for clout sometimes, and I don't like that. But
people do that for clout. That's a good way to put it.
There's a different kind of reaction. Like, I know, like my dad can watch like the craziest, like most violent, like war movies and shit.
Yeah.
But he stays completely away from horror. So it's like, I guess the context of the violence matters to some people, but I still think that that's I think it's always a dumb thing to complain about in a film. I don't know. Violence never bothers me in movies, really. Never has.
For me, it depends. It depends on the level. It depends on the level of cruelty. It depends on like sort of the
like you're not a
psychological.
Terrifier guy, right?
Not yet. I haven't seen any of them. I mean, I can't comment.
It's like ridiculous, like just so over the top.
Yeah. But I think what probably got some of these critics the first time around with The Thing was they were probably genuinely shocked.
Yeah, it came out the same year as E.T. is what I've always heard. So people were like, how could you turn in this?
So, maybe, but I've never been comfortable blaming the failure of one movie on the success of another around the same time. So maybe that is the case, but I just can't identify with it. I love the way E.T. I thought E.T. We talked about. We'll get to E.T. in a second, but
there's room for both, though, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Logically,
put them in a double feature. Let's E.T. in The Thing for the kindergarten kids. But
we lift you up and then we kick the shit out of you, man.
Yeah. E.T. and its terrifying sequel. But I think like with that scene where they're doing like the cardiac arrest and the chest busts open, I think that probably shocked people.
Yeah,
when they saw it for the first time, and they probably walked away going, this movie's crazy." And you look at it now, and it's just one of those components. It's not really like
it's still fucking crazy though. No matter how many times I see that, I go, "Oh my god!" It is
and I
like
champion
with the cut off arm stumps, And
they hired an actor who had lost his arms in a machine accident. So
full authenticity, man.
Yeah. Hiring an actor who lost his arms in a machine accident, to me, you get a grade A for me for your hiring practices and for your surprise and strength and creativity in terms of mapping out a scene. But we had talked about E.T. and how we thought that you were talking about the magic of John Williams and and how you loved E.T. and I said what it is for all of us who grew up watching it. The BMX generation is when they cut to the bike pursuit and the music cue when those wheels are spinning is like yes, for all of us. And then they shoot over a police car. We're like, this is the greatest. This is the
it's awesome.
First, they're playing a D&D game, which I only played once in the 5th grade, but can appreciate. First, they're playing a D&D game, and now they're taking their fucking Diamondbacks over a police car.
This is our life, man. Yeah. Exactly.
Because none of us would be caught dead riding a Huffy, but so it's either Mongoose or Diamondbacks,
right,
or Red Line. But you look at that, and then we were talking about Spielberg's decision to put walkie-talkies in the hands of the firearms and the federal marshals that are closing in. But we said that was probably real, right? They would have probably. This is an alien. They probably would have grabbed their weapons.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
But the layers that film provides on the surface, the relationship between E.T. obviously and Elliot, who you met. Is one thing. But for me, what really makes the movie is both the professional approach and the mapping out of the character Peter Coyote plays, where you don't see him for 3/4 of the movie. You just see clues of him. And then his first like impression into the film is walking in that down that tunnel in that hazmat suit. And he comes in and you go, now we see our guy. And he's set up to be this very scary, like antagonist, but he turns out to be very sympathetic. Like his whole quest is trying to get to what the root of what he witnessed as a kid himself.
Right.
And he's shockingly sympathetic to the young person involved, which would not have been the general take, right? I bet there was discussions about that going into production when they were writing the script saying, what kind of villain do we have here? Is he a villain? And it's probably
that's kind of interesting. Like, it's interesting that I was just thinking while you were talking about it, I don't think there really is a villain in E.T.
No.
You know, like not a singular figure. It could be like the government who's after E.T., but it should have been that character. But he isn't. He's also, I guess, just driven by discovery.
Well, we were talking how Starman takes it a notch further. Another superior film by Carpenter, by the way,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
they don't
It's a great
hold
movie.
back on what they're like. They have the lobotomy table ready to go in that movie.
Yeah.
But in E.T., it's set like, who are these people running down the spaceship in the beginning, and who are these people on the trail of E.T. that find their way into suburban Simi Valley and looking. So it's all, and it's done with John Williams' score of like foreboding
Oh,
elements.
it's a great little
approaching.
motif for the like, you know, the whatever they are, the FBI or whatever, you know,
Right,
guys looking for
right.
ET.
But when you finally get to the character and he's like, you know, he realizes the devastation and the sense of loss, and he's like, do you want us to let you have a few moments with him? Like that, I see that being discussed as probably the winning point in the creative bullpen when they were working on the script, where they were talking villain, level of villainy. And Spielberg probably said, what we need is a guy who comes in as the villain and does a complete 180
Yeah.
and allows the kid a chance to grieve. He said that will actually pull the pin on the grenade in the audience. He's like, when you see someone say, go back in and have a few moments with your friend, then all of a sudden this character becomes someone you're afraid of through the entire movie to someone you're somewhat impressed by. And even when they're like on this sort of madcap Scooby-Doo like hunt for the spaceship at the end, where they're like cruising, the guy can't drive, but he does a fantastic job. And he gets to the park and they got their bikes ready to go. See Thomas Howell, who did a movie with my old boss, John Milius.
That's right.
Red Dawn.
Red Dawn.
Yeah. And they're like, all they're ready to go. And they've got like he's got like his boxes on his head, and the dude's got his ninja hood and whatever it is. And they're like, now it's our turn. And now it's the Goonies' turn for a little payback. But even when they're doing all that, like the Peter Coyote character is like not out to hurt them. He's like, holy fuck, it's going down. Like he's a lot, like it's almost like he wants to get them and get to the bottom of it, but he wants to do it in all the right ways. And I think it's the one thing about E.T. I will say is I'm impressed with them not to collapse into what would have been a lot of like sort of storytelling norms. Like, let's have a clear-cut bad guy. Like, that guy is very there's a gray area with that character that I think is
He doesn't have
executed
a
really
name
well.
in the movie, I don't think either. I think it's
Yeah.
either like the man with the keys or something like that.
Yeah. And
is
that's
what
a
he's
good way to
called.
do it too. Very
It's a very intentional thing that he doesn't have a name, I
Yeah.
think, you know?
Well,
So
We'll just call him Coyote for now.
Peter Coyote.
But Coyote's the perfect casting choice because he had that quality. You know, he was the officer in Southern Comfort too, and he was kind of like that same guy around like a real bizarre set of casting choices that were excellent, like the Fred Wards and the Powers Booths and the Keith Carradines.
Like the only
know?
other movie I can think of him in that just like immediately comes to mind is this. I think it's a Polanski movie called Bitter Moon. You ever seen that?
No, but I know about it.
It is bizarre. Like, holy shit. You couldn't get further away from the ET vibe, but I saw that anyway. So
Well, Polanski's
it's another one you don't
known.
need to see. You're good. I've taken that bullet for you. It's all good.
Thank you. I'm going to trust your opinion on it. Oh, the only reason is so little time. You know,
That's
I've got to be
right.
sure to invest it properly. But it's funny, like just looking back at these movies, like Justin Rivera barged in at an event, like we were at rehearsals or something for a show, and he's like, dude, I just came from a screening of E.T. This is recently, like last year.
Sure.
And he goes, that movie still holds up.
Oh
And I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
really? That's awesome. Mark Marshall was on the set of that, and he said Carlo Ribaldi, who did the ET, would like call for it, and there was an actor in the costume for some of it, and he'd be like, "Get me the midget, get me the midget," and they'd be like, Carlo.
Don't do that, man.
let's help you communicate. Rambaldi did all the stuff for Dune, and he had like a notorious history with these things, and he was certainly an artist in his way. But it was like they were had to check him, be like, "Hey, buddy, look, let's talk about our communication now." The rumors of E.T., and it's been a while since I've heard this, is that Harrison Ford makes an appearance in it, and so does Spielberg. Now, the fun fact between this episode and next, I would say so what I'd heard from some of the people who worked on it is Harrison Ford is the teacher when they're trying to do the frog dissection.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
And what I heard also is Spielberg is the guy in the truck doing the surveillance.
Yeah, because Harrison Ford's, I guess it would have been his first wife wrote E.T., I think. Right?
Yeah. So that's what I've heard from the people who worked on it. I mean, look, the movie's almost 50 years old, and memory is an interesting thing, but I'm sure
they had it out in IMAX. Oh God, yeah, I think it was in 23, but they had Jaws. They re-released Jaws in IMAX in 3D, and they also put E.T. out in IMAX. And I took my daughter to see both of them, and we were just fucking completely blown away. But E.T. really hit because I hadn't seen it since I'd become a parent, and I think it's an even kind of a deeper movie because it so relates to like young kids and their experience, So
yeah, it's funny to me. It at times it's become fashionable to bash on Spielberg for whatever reason, and I know when people talk great directors, there's some names they feel compelled to gravitate to, and maybe do gravitate to these names in a genuine sense. John Ford, I liked a lot of his stuff. Orson Welles, me not so much. Sam Peckinpah to a degree, and Spielberg is, for me, definitely in the lineup. And my two examples are that first shot of the woman from underwater in Jaws, matched with the chase from a horse to a Nazi convoy in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like two completely different moods executed flawlessly.
Right.
It's like the action elements that he was able to put together. You're gonna ride a horse, and you're gonna come here, and then you're gonna get on this truck, and you're gonna fucking bash this motorcycle into a swamp.
Get dragged by a whip in the from the back of the truck too. That's some cool shit.
Yeah. Plus the simplicity of like, we're just gonna create this vibe of like being underwater under this swimmer. Like that to me that's a level of genius that is rarely matched in our business.
Yeah, he's a great filmmaker. He deserves his spot as one of the greatest of all time, for sure.
For sure. And I don't know why people like to bash on his movies, like the same
way
they
clout,
like
man. Like I was saying before, people just sometimes you make yourself big by, shitting on somebody bigger than you. It's a way to get famous or whatever.
Yeah. Terrible way to go about it.
It's despicable.
It absolutely is despicable. But I mean, both these guys also owe a great debt to people like Howard Hawks, who was as the producer of the thing. David Foster said, was like this right-wing commie hunting lunatic. But he said that on the show too. He said we were based at Universal, where I'm based now, and he
That's
goes,
so specific too. Yeah,
he goes, God, we're going to remake The Thing, and he's like, but that was a Howard Hawks film. Which, although Hawks isn't credited as the director, it's pretty obvious. I think he certainly had a hand in it. But he's like, oh my God, like I guess one of the producers on The Thing was like married to Howard Hawks' daughter, and he's like, I can't. My right wing, commie crushing father-in-law would kill me if we remade it, something like that. He told the story. It was just really funny. And by the way, I do think Carpenter's version of The Thing, though it shouldn't be considered a remake, is way better than the thing from another world, which to me is a
Yeah.
completely different movie. But I know
It's
they
completely different. Yeah, the creature's
Yeah.
different. It's almost, isn't it kind of story wise, it's kind of like the story of like without being the story of the Norwegian base, it basically would be their story if you were to tell it. Because they're like the first ones to find it, right? Where they cut it out of the ice and everything in the Howard Hawks one.
So in the Howard Hawks one, it's an overpopulated American base, and a bunch of some Army Air Force guys fly up to it, and they discover it.
Right. They're the ones that
and
make the original discovery, though, is what I'm saying, right?
yeah, they make the discovery.
Yeah.
There's a journalist. I mean, have you read the book by Campbell, Who Goes There?
No, I haven't. Is it cool?
So yeah, it's very good. It's good. I like it. Now, Bill Lancaster wrote the script for the thing, and Bill Lancaster was the son of actor Burt Lancaster. So I'm at a legendary Christmas party like 20 years ago, hosted by Richard Johnson, who was the star of The Haunting for Robert Wise.
Cool.
And he had this like Sinatra-esque Christmas cocktail party with like the star of Herbie the Love Bug and all these like veteran guys from like the Rat Pack era who'd done these movies.
It's cool.
And Ian Buchanan was there too. So I'm at this party, right? And one of the guests is Burt Lancaster's daughter. And I brought my mom to this cocktail party too. My wife, my mom, and of course she loved it because she was like meeting a lot of interesting Hollywood types who were very polite. You're from a generation where being polite was part of the job.
And she
they're
probably
telling
knew who a lot of them were and all that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's cool.
So I meet her and I go, "Oh, I was a big fan of your brother's work. I loved his screenplay for The Thing and Bad News Bears because he wrote that too." And
Oh,
she
cool.
stops me and she goes, "Do you know Bad News Bears is like a documentary?" She goes, "That is based on my father, Burt Lancaster, when he was coaching my brother's little league team. Everything in that movie is right out of his real experiences." And now it makes sense because now you can see like the Burt Lancaster possibly doing all these things that like Buttermaker did, like Chico Bail Bonds is going to sponsor us and we're going to have a beer in the dugout, kids. Don't worry about losing. Anyway, back to The Thing. Little sidebar for anyone who cares.
That's cool.
So
You got
let's
all
go
the
back.
sidebars.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm doing what I can to clog up an otherwise efficient conversation from Evan Uncanny here, and we're getting close to our time because it's dangerous when we start talking. We literally had a 2-hour conversation that would have been like 15 minutes tops with anyone else on the planet. But
And I did not mind. And, it's like, fuck, man. It's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what happens is then you start to regulate when you talk to these people because you're like, "Oh, I better not call him now because then I won't get like you're an ideal guy to call when I'm sitting in the DMV, or I'm sitting something like in traffic because then I know, oh, this will take my mind right off all this
I'm
crazy
out of here.
stupid
Yeah.
shit."
It's like, getting pulled out of there. Yeah.
So let me kick it over to you. We've talked Carpenter, we've talked E.T., we've talked Peter Jason, as we all should. What are we thinking of in terms of what Evan Uncanny looks back and appreciates the most and why?
About which one of those things?
Yeah, I guess that's a pretty lame question, but let me make it a little less lame.
It's not.
If I could.
I'm like, could you be more specific?
One of the things you talked about is how much you loved watching John Williams conduct his music to like the final. What was it? The final reel of Raiders of the Lost Ark, or
no? It's the last. The story that I have heard, whatever's out on the internet is, I think that John Williams wrote like a 15-minute long piece of music or something like that. Like the music came first, and then Spielberg like edited the movie to that. It's the last. It's like, it's basically like the final reel of E.T. That's my favorite John Williams music. And I was telling you that he played a show at the Hollywood Bowl. Like somebody threw the video up on YouTube and recorded it when they were there. They don't have the best seats, but it's nice to hear it still. But yeah, he played the whole like final reel of E.T. At the LA Philharmonic at the Bowl, which is fucking mind blowing. So.
Yeah, that would be pretty legendary for sure. Mark Marshall worked with him on Harry Potter and said they all called him Maestro.
Yeah, he's Amazing catalog of work, man. Just ridiculous. All the stuff he's done. And it was, so I saw him, I think at the end of 2023, and when I was when I was leaving, and everybody's kind of shuffling out. But actually, you remember Journey, like the fucking, I guess what were they, just a rock band or whatever? But the lead singer of Journey, Steve Perry, he was getting up out of his seat, and he's saying to like a friend of his, he goes, "Now that was the experience of a lifetime." So like him with all his stuff, like he's like to John Williams, thinking he's like, the best. Steve Perry was excited to be at the John Williams show. So, and I tapped him, and he looked at me, and I said, "Appreciate you, man." He's like, "Oh, thanks, man." And we just kept walking. So
there you go. See, take that, Austin Stoker's ghost.
Exactly. Yeah. I was like, at least Steve Perry likes me, man. Shit,
Well, Perry undoubtedly has an appreciation for all these things, being a musician, so he knows, the ins and outs and the level of creativity to deliver all these emotional moments. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, 90% of the connectivity in a Spielberg film is due to his music.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, otherwise, you just got to,
Jones.
in E.T., you just got a fucking Muppet, going, it's like,
you said Muppet thing earlier. They're burning Muppets, and now I want to see like the Muppets thing.
Gold.
How would you say it?
All right, so
a Muppets version of the thing, where one character is human. I guess it would be McCready.
Bro, there's several movies we need, and we need the Henson Company to tackle, even in a fan film way. We need a Muppet version of the thing. We need a Muppet version of Fog. Of the Fog, and we need a Muppet version of Apocalypse Now.
I want Escape from New York also.
Okay, so who's the Duke? Animal? So Fozzie is obviously the Harry Dean Stanton character, right?
God, who's the Duke?
So, because the Duke's gang is going to be the band,
well, he's got to be a bad guy. Like, who's the bad guy of the Muppets?
So the bad guy's platoon will be Electric Mayhem.
Oh, Dr. Teeth. Dr. Teeth would be the Duke. Yeah.
Oh, actually, you know what? No, those two scientists would be the Harry Dean Stanton character with Beaker and the other guys.
Dr. Honeydew, I think his name is, right?
I think that the Muppets would be tempted to put the Swedish Chef as the Duke, and I don't think that's the call. I think you got to look to one of the more, like, who would be great, even though he's in a parallel universe, but not the Muppet universe, is Oscar the Grouch as the Duke.
That would be cool.
Can you see him riding in a car with chandeliers?
Yeah. See, but I'm saying I think Dr. Teeth, like the lead singer of Electric Mayhem,
for sure
fits. Yeah, would like.
Yeah. And
he could dig the car with the chandeliers on it for sure.
That movie remained like a high point in Isaac Hayes' career. Another guy we loved very much. You'd have lunch with Isaac Hayes and be sitting with him at 6 o'clock in the evening and not realize that 6 hours went by. He was that kind of personality, but he loved doing that. Perfect Carpenter guy, too. He fit right into the way Carpenter likes to work and the environment Carpenter wants around him. But what we should say is Peter Jason, who we lost recently, who was like family. He was in all these John Carpenter movies, I think, not so much because he was a good actor, even though I say with him and people like Sonny Landham from Predator and people I knew, I don't think any of those guys acted one day in their life. They brought their personality and who they were to the set, and they just said the lines. But more than his acting talent, I think he's in all those Carpenter films, and he's in like 12 or 16 movies for Walter Hill, another specific director in terms of what he likes. I think he was cast in all those movies because of who he was and who we knew him to be, which tells me a lot about Carpenter, but even more about Peter Jason. If you're listening to this, he was an exceptional human being. Exceptional. Very much missed. And we'll post Evan's photos of Peter in the Amadeus-like balcony, just doing what he did, like holding a glass of wine, shaking everyone's hand. He didn't know any of those people.
Yeah, it's funny. I just spotted him up there and went, "Oh fuck, it's Peter Jason's up there, man. That's cool."
And so, the other thing he told me too, Peter Jason also shot all the behind the scenes featurettes for Ghost of Mars. He just wanted
Right.
something to do on the set. So Carpenter said, take a camera and go shoot all this stuff. And Peter Jason's working style to make that interesting for him to do actually led Carpenter to changing some setups. Like he saw Peter said Carpenter saw him on a roof and he's like, what are you doing up there? He's like, I'm shooting he's like, no, get down. I'm going to get up there. I'm going to shoot from up there now. Like he saw him but it's just one of those things where Peter Jason would tell you all these stories and insights about how, and even at the show at the Orpheum, because he would go all the time. I guess at one point backstage, he goes, John, I'm in a lot of these clips. You would be thinking I might get a residual or something. And he goes, Carpenter's response was, well, I put you in and I can take you out. Typical. That's exactly what you'd expect Carpenter to say, right? But anyway, there you go. Peter Jason moments. I loved them and They Live. You got a favorite Peter Jason moment?
I love him and They Live, but I love him just giving Snake a bunch of shit in Escape from L.A. Telling you turned your back on your country and all that stuff. It's funny. Just giving him a hard time when he first gets picked up and gets, I guess it's the island of Los Angeles in that movie.
Of course.
Yeah. Kurt fits into his, like in the commentary they talk about this, but that's like his original outfit from Escape from New York. So all those years later, he put on the exact same shit and could fit into it. And he was like marveling at things. Like, fucking fit into the same outfit, man. It's the same shit from the first one.
Fuck,
like literally
impressive.
The same costume, which is wild.
That is impressive. Joe Alves told me, he was the production designer. He told me they shot the hang gliding sequence from Escape from New York and the whole New York street scene with chock full of nuts in Palmdale, in the Palmdale desert. They built it. And
what? That's crazy.
And he said, if you were to move the camera even 1 degree to the left, you'd see cactus. But right there. And so Alves did what
it looks like a backlot or something. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's some of it was done in Century City and other places.
Oh no,
the rooftop.
Yeah, they shot like I guess they were on location in St. Louis for a lot of it though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know that story about Kurt Russell walking? He was like walking down this alley and there were some vagrants around a trash can, like real people living on the street or wherever in St. Louis. He's like, I knew the costume was going to work when I came around the corner. And these guys saw me, with all my fucking gear on, machine gun and shit. And they just went, hey, man, whoa, They believed he was like St. Louis was so fucked up that this could be like a real person walking the street out there. It's just
incredible
crazy.
Incredible job on that movie. Like top to bottom. I mean, it's like I don't even care about the boots. Like things that wouldn't probably be the best fit for a mission.
I love that whole
still
fucking
works.
costume.
Still works.
They're dirt bike boots. I bought those actual boots. I forget what dirt bike company makes them, but with the plate on the front and all that. Yeah, they're cool.
Nice. Yeah, legendary. Kurt said he based it on Clint Eastwood, which is interesting because he's opposite Lee Van Cleef in some of it. And that dialogue between them is so crisp and so well written. And Nick Castle deserves a shout for some of that too. But when he's like, I'm ready to kick your ass out of the world, war hero.
Yeah.
Just the way.
Bob Houck. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, so why are we talking?
Dude. So cold. I love that
the
shit.
whole, the president's plane went down. He's like, president of what?
President of what? I don't give a fuck about you, president.
Yeah. Just so out of touch. Just the way he played it,
He doesn't care, you know?
Oh, man. It was like one of those landmark moments. When I get out, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, and at the end, he's like, I can't, you going to kill me, Snake? Maybe, I'm too tired. Maybe later. Yeah.
Set up for a perfect sequel. I don't know that we got the perfect sequel, but I'm glad they ultimately did one. Harrison Ellenshaw worked on it, too. He's got some stories from it. But
Peter Fonda and Snake surfing down Sunset Boulevard? Come on,
so
man.
I have a theory about the movie, right? And I actually said this to some of the guys that were in it, because some of the stuntmen, James Liu, they did that film with him. And I said, my feeling is that John Carpenter wanted to do an original movie. But in order to do it, he had to do a sequel to Escape from New York. And so to get out of that, Carpenter went in and made the most outrageous pitch and script of and it keeps stacking on outrage upon outrage upon outrage. And the executives are too fucking tone deaf to be like, no, a basketball game with our villain, like a game of horror. No, like they don't say no, that's dumb, or like, all right, John, just go do your movie. We get it. You're
Cuervo
not going to
Jones,
do.
man.
Yeah, Cuervo Jones. Like they don't
Cuervo
even
Jones.
read that in the script and be like, Cuervo Jones.
It's like one of those things where you bid something too high, hoping you won't get the job, and like,
Yeah,
no,
you get it. You
oh
get
fuck,
it.
I got the job. No, I don't
And they're
want
like,
the
look,
job.
man, we'll put Pam Grier in this, and Pam Grier will be Fresno Bob or whatever it is. But it's a
what
man.
was it? Carjack Malone. Yeah.
And it's like he keeps trying to get more and more ridiculous, and then he finally said, and hoping to get them to say no, and they never do. They love it. Surfing, surfing down Sunset Boulevard or whatever it is.
That's
Yeah,
right.
do it, do all of it, and then he's stuck having to do it. He's like, son of a bitch. He's like, never put it past a film exec for being completely tone deaf. I ought to know, right?
It's fun. That movie's fun though. I mean,
Yeah. Well, look,
it's fun in its ridiculousness. The fucking finale's in Disneyland.
Is it?
It is. Well, it's like called I don't remember what they call it, but yeah, they even make a joke. They're like, that Paris park bankrupted a man. It's like, yeah, it's they fight it out on Main Street, USA. Basically, is the end of the movie.
I have to admit that's a good touch. That's a good touch.
It is. Yeah, it's like got a lot of it's fun. Whatever.
Well, who hasn't been on those attractions in that park and thought, oh, we should coordinate? It'd be great to coordinate a fight scene around all this.
Right.
Like on one ride to the next, like in the water between the two islands of Pirates of the Caribbean on the boat. We've all probably thought in those terms, and then they got pretty close to living it out.
Yeah, they kind of cover it. Like I know, part of it's actually shot in the Orpheum. I think when he first comes in, who's the Carradine brother who's in Revenge of the Nerds?
Robert.
He's like throwing a knife at this guy. One of the guys that went in to save the president's daughter. That's all at the Orpheum. I know that basketball thing with Cuervo Jones is at the Coliseum. And then Pam Grier's character lives on the Queen Mary. And then the finales, it's like they kind of, it's like a little, it features all of our prominent areas. It's kind of cool.
Al Leong, who makes a very brief appearance in They Live and was in Big Trouble in Little China, said he went down to the set of Escape from LA to say hi to John and some of his buddies on the movie.
Is he in
I
it?
think Jeff Amata. No, he's not. But I think Jeff
okay.
Amata was the stunt coordinator. And so he goes down to say hello, and he's walking towards the set, and I guess John Carpenter spotted him from the shadows. He was on a cell phone or something. He goes, "Hey, Al," and said hello to him. And when he got to the set, he saw it was the basketball setup in the Coliseum is where they shot that or something. And he was
yeah, that's where they did. Yeah.
And Al Leong was thinking what kind of movie are you making here? He's like, he saw the basketball thing and the snake. He couldn't really at that moment put it together, or maybe he could and didn't really know what to make of it. But it was kind of a fun day to go visit John Carpenter, I guess. But when you go up to a basketball set and you're like, there's a basketball game in this? there's
what's going on, man?
There's these guys stop and play basketball. Kind of intriguing. All right. Anyway, I'm going to leave final thoughts to you. Evan Uncanny, the Haunt Keeper. Follow him on his IG, as the kids would say.
That's right.
He was also one of the intrepid artists covering the back behind the scenes of A Christmas Carol.
It's a great time and a good event for a good cause also.
Yeah, and you had a chance to, I think you got a photo with Jeanette Goldstein, right?
I did, yeah. Yeah.
Doesn't she blow you away? She blows me away because when you see her as Vasquez in Aliens, you go, God, I have a hard time believing that's the same person.
Yeah. She was, I thought her performance in the play was cool. Her line readings and stuff were really cool. She did a great job.
Yeah, she is a classically trained master actress. And she certainly delivered. And a first-class human being. She could not be cooler. But it was just funny because
everybody's super cool, man. Everybody involved with that is super cool. It's cool to hang out and meet with everybody.
We try not to work with assholes. The only guy you got to worry about who's a little uncool in that whole production is me, as you know. I'm the one guy that everyone's going.
Hey, you got to keep this shit together, man. It's all on your shoulders, so you got to make it happen. It's,
Clancy Brown, Ron Perlman, they're all going to be great. Paul Reiser, the one guy you got to worry about is Ethan, because that dude is fucking batshit aggro crazy.
You just have to funnel it in the right direction. It's all good, man.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm better if well, never mind. I'm not even going to get into the elements of this, but it was good to have you there, and I hope you'll do it again
No
this
worries,
year.
man.
It might, oddly enough, fall on the very same day because the Saban's talking about giving us a Friday night.
Oh yeah, you were telling me about that.
Which would be November 21st again. So we may not even have to change any of the signage. We'll
Hey,
have
it's
to
a
wait
win. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So favorite John Carpenter moment for you, followed by your favorite Peter Jason moment.
Oh, geez.
In closing.
That's really difficult. Well, I know the Peter Jason one's is the Escape from L.A. Oh, you know what? Favorite Peter Jason moment, actually. I had forgotten. We were talking about this last night on the phone, but I had forgotten that he's in that great scene in 48 Hours where it's sort of the what is it? Kind of like a country western bar where Eddie Murphy comes in and just starts fucking shitting on everybody. Y'all are rednecks,
Hilarious.
so I'm really enjoying this shit right now. It's funny. And he's the bartender in that scene, and I totally forgot. So I love that. And Carpenter. I love his movies, but we were talking about this too. There's a YouTube clip where they're doing a Q&A and this fan is really disrespectful toward him, and he kind of just absorbs it. He leans back like this and he goes, "Fuck you."
Why? Why do that to a guy? Why?
Again, it's to tear down for the clout, so you're that person. But I don't know. People don't stand. The audience turned on the guy and was just they all cheered when John Carpenter flipped him off because I don't think they expected it, but it was so appropriate. He was the fan asked about vampire. I think vampires and Escape from L.A. and he's like, "Why are these last few films you did so disappointing? And are you disappointed in yourself or something?" He just was not having it. He's like, "Hey, fuck you, man. What are you doing?"
Man,
he won't be disrespected, and I love that about him.
No, nor should
he won't take
be.
anyone's bullshit, and it's awesome.
But the guy on the street, the guy on the sidelines, really doesn't understand what goes into doing this. They think they know. It's
the man in the arena, Ethan. The man of the arena. That's what it's about.
That's called the Duffing-Kruger effect, where you think you read something or know something or watch something on YouTube that you know, but then when you get into the real world of it, you don't really know shit. And that's there's a scientific name for people who think that. And it's basically, unfortunately, social media is dominated by a lot of these types who think they know every fucking thing and know how they'd handle every fucking thing. But the reality is these things go down a certain way with certain handicaps and certain logistics, and it is what it is. And, to hate somebody on that and to kind of make a public display of it is in really bad taste. I mean, a filmmaker,
Absolutely.
I would have loved to have talked more to David Lynch, though I don't like any of his movies. But you would never hear me tell him, what the fuck are you doing with this Mulholland Drive? It's he makes the movies he wants to make for the people who want to see it. And that's that. The guy, and my daughter, by the way.
We like his weird shit, man.
Yeah.
Even for me, I don't know. I think of Blue Velvet, and I think I enjoyed watching it, but I more enjoy moments from it, where is it, what's his name? Is it Dean Stockwell? Is that his name? The dude from Quantum Leap.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
He sings Roy Orbison's "In Dreams" to a work light, and Dennis Hopper's boiling over with rage while he's doing it. I love that. I think it's hilarious.
So Steve Serchik, our partner here, director of The Witcher and Fubar with Schwarzenegger, he loves that movie. And we were just talking 2 days ago about what we should talk about. And he goes, "Well, there's Blue Velvet. We just lost David Lynch." I'm like, "Oh, please don't pick that one," because, I have to salute its artistic making merit in its artistic license capacity. But I don't.
Yeah.
I'm the one guy who doesn't love the film. But my daughter says, she said something that kind of blew my mind the other day. She goes, "Can you imagine walking into Bob's Big Boy and you sit in a booth and David Lynch is on one side of the booth, and on the other side is David Byrne from the Talking Heads."
Oh, yeah.
Because they're kind of the same people. Can you imagine what that
it's
conversation would be like?
Yeah.
I'd be like, that would be a conversation that most people would pay money to witness. But getting back to Carpenter's best moment, I don't know if I have one off screen. I certainly have one on, and I would have to say, for me, it's kind of the it may very well be the confrontation between Snake Plissken and Lee Van Cleef, Bob Houck, where they kind of have the dialogue that sets up the conditions in the world around the whole movie
across
and the
from
mission.
the table. Yeah, right.
Some people will jump
Why
to
are we
like
talking?
Yeah, exactly. He's like, get a new president.
Fucking red egg. Just too good, man.
Yeah, just I love that. I mean, there's so many great moments with Carpenter, but I do think that's probably that's where my mind goes for one of my favorites. We should take a deeper look at some of this stuff and have more fun with it. But I will tell you, without a doubt, my favorite Peter Jason moment is this one coming up that we'll end with, where he sent my daughter a video when she was in the hospital fighting for her life. And I'll let the audience actually see this video he sent, because it, in a snapshot, perfectly defines the human being that was the legendary Peter Jason. Legendary in every sense of the word. Just a magnificent person. And to a lot of us who feel like we've lost a family member, or certainly someone we've loved, there's now going to be a space there that we're all going to have to work really hard to kind of compensate for. Because one thing about him was he was upbeat all the time, despite fighting for his life, despite circumstance, despite obstacles and barriers. He was always upbeat, always finished his sentence with like a laugh or a smile at the very least, and kind of reminded us that life is worth fighting for. And that was one thing I would take away from knowing him. But I would tell all his friends, because we've all started to talk. You, Daryl Bell, everyone's starting to get on the phone now, and you can feel the sense of loss in the conversation. Particularly when I heard from Daryl Bell, you could kind of hear him stop to like pause and say, I don't know what I'm going to do if he's dead. You know, because we didn't know at first when the news was going around. And I'll say to everyone here what I said to him, which is, we're just going to have to find a way to fill in the blank. We're going to have to be, in some way, shape, or form, the positive force that he was, not just for each other, but everyone around us. The world needs it. Like, we're going to have to be upbeat and look at the bright side of life, because he was that Monty Python song.
Yeah, that's cool.
Every day he was that Monty Python song, you know, in a sense. And so I'll leave the show, I'll leave our audience here with this one clip he sent my daughter when we were in a pretty terrifying, dangerous situation. And, you know, Peter came through, as he often always did, for people. So we'll leave that here for the show. And too much legendary greatness involving Peter Jason for us to get to. So hopefully we'll revisit some of this in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Sean. This is your old buddy, Uncle Pete, playing you a little tune to tell you how much I love you. I know you're going through some stuff right now. Well, don't worry about it. We got you covered. Love you.